up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Trust Your Board podcast. My name is Stephen Wright, joined as always by Mr. William Monroe. Will, how you doing?
Steve, very, very good over here. It's a solid weekend of football for me. My Pennsylvania Lions moved to 2-0 and up to number 10 in the rankings. The Eagles got a surprising week 1 win, I guess, to some down in Atlanta. And it might be one of my best week 1s ever. I've got more teams than I'd like here, but barring a 20.5 point output from Mark Andrews in our work league, I'm going to be looking to go 6-1 in week 1.
Yeah, that is that's pretty good. You can't complain about that.
No, I was actually at the shore with my parents, my sister and her fiance, and he's also into fantasy. So basically, my dad and my future brother-in-law were all sitting there watching. We had the red zone screen up. He had a second game. We had the Eagles on the big screen, and we're basically just talking fantasy the whole time. And then, oh, check out this! And look at this happening. And at the end, and while I, didn't, it's weird not like feeling kind of stressed throughout because it just worked out in my favor. My sister's fiance lost because of Matt Stafford's final touchdown in the drive last night. They were doing 4-point touchdowns for quarterback, so he was up by like 27 or 28. And with that league, that's pretty high for a guy of Matt Stafford's caliber, at least going into it. So he was pretty confident, and I just was watching him kind of fall apart throughout the game. One by one, it's like, all right, I'm still on pace. I can afford like 7 points a quarter, 8 points a quarter, and slowly it just got worse and worse until it literally came down to if they didn't score that last touchdown, he probably would have had a chance. He probably would have won. So.
Wow, yeah, shame. Well, that's how it goes.
Victory, the joy of victory and the misery of defeat.
Yeah, that's the truth, man. That is the truth. Well. Part of a victory moving forward is waivers, right, Will?
Yeah, moving on to week 2 here. I think we have 1 game left as we record this here Monday night. We're coming up on the Ravens and Raiders game, so probably won't touch on too many people in that game here in our waiver show. We'll see if anybody breaks out there. But we have some waivers to touch on for the other 15 games that occurred.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we could start with who I think is probably the biggest one, or at least the most interesting, and that's going to be running back Mitchell out of San Francisco. What was he? I think a 6th-round draft pick, and put up 100 yards after most of
was
out.
This year.
Yeah, Sermon was out.
I think we were looking at him in a couple rookie drafts.
Yeah, so he's definitely out there. He's about 9% owned. Everyone was drafting Sermon and leaving him for dead, and that's not how things turned out. So what do you, A, are you interested in him, and B, what percentage of Fab are you thinking?
I think you have to be interested because it sounds like most are, I think last I saw was, 6 weeks? 6 to 8?
Yeah, I think closer to 8, but yeah, 6 to 8-ish.
It's a knee, and I didn't hear the specifics of it, but it sounds like it's not
torn
season-ending,
torn cartilage, I think, something like that. Yeah,
something with the cartilage, which I think was, not odd, but just something you don't see as often as, a ligament or bone or something or muscle. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I think Mostert is one of the most hyped players and also one of the most hurt players. Unfortunately, he, when he's on the field, he proves that he is incredible, but proves that he can't always stay on the field. And in an offense like San Francisco, somebody's going to carry the ball. And from what we've seen, track record is they're going to run the ball well no matter who it is. So you want to get that next man up mentality. So I think you definitely want the Niners running backs. And I think if you had to put money, one way or the other, Mitchell's probably the guy. But you got to think they're going to activate Trey Sermon, right? You're probably going to get Hasty involved. And don't they have a veteran maybe on the practice squad or that was inactive?
I think you're thinking of Gallman, and they let him go.
Okay, and then the one guy got hurt, went down for the year. Is that Wilson?
Yeah, I believe so.
Somebody is down for the year. So, I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I guess there's a chance they bring somebody in. Could that be an opportunity for a Gurley, maybe?
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Because you have 2 rookies, and then Hasty is a second-year guy. Hasty and Mitchell are both late picks. I think they're fifth or like he might have been an undrafted free agent. Mitchell's a fifth round pick. Sermon's second, so definitely has some capital, but you probably want to get another back in there. So I think as much as I'm trying to limit kind of the hype for him, but it's going to be there. He's probably going to it's going to be, I'd imagine, him and Sermon as the two guys unless they bring someone in. I just don't know how much I want to spend. I'm torn.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, it feels like
your favorite team.
You're going to have to spend 30 to 40%, I think, to get him. And then you run the risk of, Sermon, he was the higher draft pick. Maybe he just takes a job and then you're out.
Yep.
But I feel like that's so you're going to have to roll the dice. A lot of people are going to be bidding on him, whether you want to pay up to have that upside, just know the risk involved because, it's San Francisco. It could be anybody on any given week.
And I think at the very least, he's going to be in a 50-50 split with Sermon, even if they sign a Gurley this week, let's say, for this coming week. But, I mean, there's definitely a chance that I think, at least this week, it's going to be him because clearly he's ahead of Sermon. That's why Sermon was inactive, and he was active for game one. So, yeah, look at it like that. But the Eagles played well against Atlanta. I mean, obviously, San Francisco's a different team, but, much better overall team, but they definitely Atlanta ran the ball well on them. So even though the Eagles were able to stiffen in the second half, I was watching that game. That first couple drives, it was almost all on the ground with Mike Davis and Cordell Patterson, so not household names. So not a great matchup, but not a horrible matchup in week two here against Philly. So definitely someone I want to pick up, but I just don't know that I'm going to be willing to spend what it's going to take to get him.
Yeah, so on that note, you mentioned Cordell Patterson. Had a good week. Are you interested in him at all?
Yeah, I think he's someone I'd put a bid in. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to put more than 10, maybe, and maybe that's a little much, but it seems like he's going to be the guy that is the second fiddle there for sure. It doesn't seem like they have anybody else. I think both of them played well. Both of them carried the ball very well, and I think they had pretty even splits. Pull it up here. So if we're looking at the Atlanta running game, he had half the carries, 7 carries, but for 54 yards, whereas Mike Davis had 15 carries for 49 yards, so not as efficient, but definitely got the bulk. Patterson, 2 catches for 13 yards, Mike Davis, 3 for 23, so seems like you got I wouldn't say a 1A, 1B, probably a 1, and a 1 and a 2. Patterson seems to be really efficient with it. 9 total touches. You're looking at 67 yards. So overall, averaging somewhere around 7 yards a touch. If you can get in the end zone, great, but you're going to get a couple catches. Atlanta this week has Tampa, so you're thinking probably even more of a negative game script, and they may not be able to run the ball like they did against the Eagles, against the Tampa team. So he could be in line for a lot of receiving work as well with the negative game script. What are you thinking about Patterson?
I don't trust him. He's just,
no.
Yeah, I mean, it could work out, but, that Atlanta offense did not look good. And, we've seen, and it's not like Patterson's, Eli Mitchell. He's new and exciting. Like, we've seen him all over the place. Like, he pops every once in a while. So I just, he's a running back, so you got to take a shot on him. I'm just not interested.
Yeah. Is running back in quotes there?
yeah, definitely it is. It's just a Swiss Army knife kind of guy. But, I'm not interested.
What do you think bid-wise?
Like me,
if you were going,
me personally, I would probably put maybe 10%, but I'd imagine he's going to go for a little bit more than that, probably 15-ish. I mean, it depends on, a running back needy team might take a shot depending on how they, deal with their fab.
Yeah.
I'd much rather take a shot on the next guy.
And in general, I think maybe as crazy as it's going to sound, the most popular overall team we're going to talk about here today.
Yeah, and I guess we can lump them both in. So we have Mark Ingram here and then David Johnson both. I got lucky in our work league and picked up Ingram. Someone dropped him, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I clicked a little note, and it's like, oh, yeah, he's expected to be a lead back. I was like, okay, I'll take that.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, he wasn't super efficient. I think he was like 3 yards a carry, 3.3 or something. Not great, but...
far and away the most
Agreed.
carries,
And,
though.
he's a starting running back, and that's valuable. So I definitely take my shot there. Duke Johnson, not interested. He fell in the end zone.
David Johnson.
Yeah, David Johnson, my bad. He got into the end zone, but,
No.
that Jacksonville team was just
Only
terrible.
3 carries,
Yeah,
3 receptions, so he
there.
lucked out. Yeah, he had 28 total yards, so without the touchdown, it's not looking great. But, I mean, Lindsey didn't look great either. He got in the end zone. All 3 of them actually got in the end zone, which is funny. All 3 of the running backs, so they all had a valuable week 1. But this is against a first-year head coach and first-year quarterback with Jacksonville, so, I mean, they could just be in for some growing pains, and, everyone kind of figured they would roll over Houston because of the narrative with Houston. But, as much as we don't love the overall Houston team, they have a lot of veterans on the team. 3 veteran running backs. Tyrod Taylor's a veteran quarterback. A couple of receivers with Cooks and Amendola, someone we'll talk about in a bit. So a lot of veterans on the team, and they know how to go out and win a game, whereas Jacksonville didn't.
Yeah, and, again, a good lead-in. Speaking of Jacksonville, Carlos Hyde had a pretty good day.
Mm-hmm.
James Robinson, not so much. Are you interested in Hyde at all?
I mean, I guess I'll throw some on him, but I don't. I imagine this is still Robinson's team, and he's going to be the guy to own there. So I think he only had 5 carries, which is a little concerning. It's like 3 receptions on 6 targets. So, he had the work and the look. I think it was just the game script wasn't there, and I'm not sure why Hyde had, the more carries and in total 9 carries and 2 targets, so right around the same usage. But I'd probably let someone else spend some money on him. And if I'm the Robinson owner, definitely concerned, but I don't know that I'm, full on panic mode yet. I'd want to see it at least one more.
Okay, and our last one here, I'm taking a week 1 victory lap on Mr. Gainwell here. Got in the end zone. Would have gotten the end zone twice. I believe one got called back on a holding or something going on. But had a pretty good game. He's got San Francisco, so potentially a tough matchup. I don't know how you want to rate that. Detroit kind of beat up on San Fran, but Gainwell, you interested in him?
Yeah, I think you have to be. I was surprised that he stepped in and was the guy, because we saw last year and on training camp, Boston Scott seemed like he was the 2 there, but I don't even think he got in the field, which is crazy. So I think you got to throw some money up for Kenny Gainwell and see. He seems like he's going to be more of the receiving back. I know Sanders was involved a little bit, but he's proven that he hasn't been consistent in the passing game. So I think Gainwell is definitely someone that you can, throw on the back of your bench and see if he can step into a role there.
Yeah, moving on to the wide receivers here, Will. Tim Patrick. I guess you can lump probably Tim Patrick and Zach Pascal together. They're very similar.
Yeah, they seem like a similar person.
Yeah, exactly. Always, the forgotten guy, and then they have fantasy value because someone gets hurt in front of them or something.
Yeah.
So, are you interested in one but not the other, or on both of them? What would you be willing to bid?
I think I'd be interested in both. Definitely more Tim Patrick with the injury to Jerry Jeudy, which sounds like it's going to be 6 to 8 weeks, I think I heard. So it's really just Sutton and Fant ahead of him there. I know they use the second tight end, Albert O. KJ Hamler will be involved with deep shots, but Tim Patrick should step into kind of that intermediate route that Jeudy was working with there. So I would be much more inclined with Tim Patrick than than Pascal, who I think was, behind the running backs on the target count in Indy, but he was right there with all the other receivers. So I think it's a big hodgepodge, and he ended up getting 2 touchdowns. But other than that, I don't think you're going to bank on Pascal a ton. But I would definitely, make some bids on Tim Patrick. I think he's someone you'll be able to use, at least for a few weeks here, maybe half a season.
Yeah, I agree. Tim Patrick, I think, has been more consistent. Pascal's had a lot of opportunity where he's been the guy and he's popped off, but he's also had a lot of bad games. But Patrick, yeah, I'd be willing to drop if I
Yeah,
need a wide receiver. I don't even know, 15%. I mean, I have a fair
yeah,
amount of trust in him.
yeah. It's one of those, you want to get a guy that you think you can use, you can play, and then you can play for a while, and you're going to have usage out of him for weeks to come here because of the opportunity it opened up with the unfortunate injury to Jerry Jeudy. Um, so, going from that to, kind of pick your poison here with the potential number 2 in Arizona, Christian Kirk and Rondale Moore both have good games. AJ Green is used, but not even to the usage of these two guys. So are you all in on, naming one of them as the second receiving target without really a tight end in Arizona?
So all in on naming the second receiving target, yes. I could firmly say that Kirk's the second receiving target. Whether I'm all in for fantasy or not is another question. Rondell Moore, I'm not interested in, just I'm playing conservative rookies. He's allowed to have one game and then might just do absolutely nothing. Christian Kirk, I've always liked him, but you have these games from him throughout his career where he has a really big game and then he's gone. And then he has a really big game, and then he's gone. And sometimes he has stretches, and he disappears for a while, and it's hard to just say, well, it's week 1, and he's leveled up, and this is going to be him, because it just might be one of the pop-off weeks. So,
Yeah.
I would rather have, oh man, it sounds gross to say I'd rather have Patrick there, doesn't it? But I think I would rather have Patrick than Kirk. I don't know. I don't want to roll the dice on him, but he's a great ad. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, I think, out of this list, Tim Patrick number 1. There may be a guy we'll talk about in a bit that I'm interested in, but you probably can get cheaper. Tim Patrick's definitely number 1. I think I'm closer on Kirk and Moore than you are. You probably lean Kirk just because of the veteranness. I don't know. I just feel like we've seen it so many years where he'll have this one game and then, be looked over by some other guys. And I love the talent of Rondale Moore. And I think he fits in that offense with a bunch of big receivers as kind of the off-speed guy. You have AJ Green, you have DeAndre Hopkins there. Obviously I don't think you're starting either one of them, so I wouldn't mind, throwing in bids for both. And I think you probably have a better shot at getting Rondale Moore at a more affordable rate and just seeing what you get in him. I know I put him on a bench going into this week just to see. So happy to see him do well and want to see if he can put it together for a few weeks. But I'd be really okay with either one of them.
So we're running a little low on time. You just said you were interested in somebody else. Who was that? Someone else?
Yeah, the one I think is interesting is Danny Amendola in Houston. He came out and had a very good week, surprisingly. And I know, we were all thinking it's Brandon Cooks or bust there, and because the running back are very, meh. But Brandon Cooks was the number 1 by far with 7 targets. And there's 2 other guys that were clearing away the next 2 targets. Danny Amendola's one. He had five catches for 34 yards, so nothing super flashy. He got in the end zone, but 5 targets. I imagine if the game shift starts working against them, which we're going to expect for a lot of games coming up here against Cleveland in Cleveland, Danny Amendola seems like he is going to be the number 2 wide receiver. They have Pharaoh Brown, who was a tight end that played well. We'll talk about probably in a minute, but running backs will be used. Receiver-wise, if we're looking at these negative game scripts, Danny Amendola is a sneaky guy. I mean, I wouldn't mind throwing a couple bucks. If you really want to get him, maybe you can throw $4 or $5 up, and he could be a good, depth piece or bye-week filler in what we're going to imagine is a lot of negative game scripts.
Yeah, I agree with you on the price. And Amendola has been useful before. It's just all a matter of when the injury is going to come with him, unfortunately. So we'll see. Hopefully he can stay healthy or something.
Hit points.
Yeah, exactly. He's got hit points.
Yeah. And I'll just throw out Jalen Reagor looked good, maybe on your waivers. May have been on the back of a lot of people's rosters, but he caught 6 of 6 targets. Drops were an issue last year for him, and he got in the end zone. So if the Eagles' offense continues to play well, he could see some targets. So could be someone to see if he's still out there.
Yeah, he did. And from looking past redraft and looking at Dynasty, I think Schwartz over in Cleveland, that's pretty good showing. He's worth an ad in a Dynasty league for sure, I think.
Yeah. Makes our Donovan Peoples-Jones roster and
Yeah.
not feel great. But
Indeed. Luckily, that was just a fourth round pick.
yeah. But yeah, so we'll look over to tight ends. Just a couple of guys here. I'll just kind of run down the list of guys that I found. Jared Cook, 26% owned, going up against Dallas for the Chargers. Pharaoh Brown, 0% owned. There's a couple guys that's interesting were literally listed as 0. I thought it would say 1. Pharaoh Brown, tight end for Houston, going to be going up against Cleveland. And then both of the Dallas tight ends, Dalton Schultz and Blake Jarwin, 1 and 15% respectively, going up against the Chargers. Any interest in any of those tight ends if you were, banking on someone that didn't pan out for you?
Not really Jarwin and Schultz. That seems to be a timeshare that's just not going to help either guy.
Does the Gallup injury help at all?
Maybe, but no, I don't know. I don't want to roll the dice because I don't know who it's going to be. Jarwin seems like the better talent, but Schultz got, more targets. So I'm going to pass on those two. Brown's interesting, but I don't want to take a shot on the Houston tight end when Jared Cook's here and he had a pretty good week. Without a touchdown, I believe.
Yeah, I think, maybe if you're putting in some claims, you Cook is the guy you want. I'm not sure if he scored or not. I know he had some, I think he was like second or third in targets. He was right there with Mike Williams. But Pharaoh Brown, I think you could throw in maybe $1 or $2 claim and have him as your backup. So if someone scoops Cook, I would not mind throwing him on, the back of a roster. If you really, need to just throw someone in there, I think you could get some targets like we saw there. But at the very worst, you can hope for a touchdown. So not a bad claim, but, tight end position, there really hasn't been anything major outside of Jared Cook that surfaced for us.
Yep. And taking a look at, moving over the quarterbacks here, let's look at the list. Well, how about you give us one long-term guy you like and one streamer for the week that you like? You think that's fair?
Yeah. So, I wanted to say Kirk Cousins, but that Arizona front seven looked good, and Kirk did not look very good. Ben Roethlisberger is someone I think that's interesting. He didn't have a great game against Buffalo. He's probably available or maybe become available by people cutting him in your league. Going up against Vegas, which we don't know yet. The game's just kicking off here. I don't expect them to have a particularly great defense, but it'll be the home opener for Pittsburgh. So he's someone I think could be interesting. Anybody there stick out to you that you'd be interested in maybe throwing a stream on?
From a streaming standpoint, yeah, I like Big Ben. Jameis Winston has Carolina. That's solid. Bridgewater's got Jacksonville. So I'd be good with streaming all of them. If I want upside, I'll go Winston. If I want to be safe, I'll go with Bridgewater. From like a long-term perspective, I think I'd go with Winston. I find it hard to believe that they're going to hold him back as much as they did. Winston can chuck the ball around, but maybe they're just trying to protect from the interceptions. Sometimes coaches do that, and I would get it. I'd understand. I just would find it hard to believe. So I think I like Winston in all situations.
All right, so we'll move over here to some defensive streamers.
Real quick, just to interrupt on the Winston piece. Who was the wide receiver that did all the damage with the Saints? Wasn't there somebody that was not named Callaway?
I think there was like 5 different guys, he had 5 passing touchdowns. I think he spread them out pretty well.
I remember.
Now I know Juwan Johnson scored.
Yeah, he did.
Troutman actually had the most targets. He only had 3 catches, but he led the way with 6 targets in total.
I wonder who I might be thinking of Deontay Harris, maybe.
I know. Yeah, Juwan Johnson had 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 21 yards. Harris had 2 catches for 72 and a touchdown, so he had a 55-yarder.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, that bomb,
helped. Yeah, Kamara only had 3 for 8, but he had 4 targets. But Troutman, 3 for 18, 6 targets. He had the most targets. Really spread around, so I don't know that I can really say who's the one there.
That's fair. And before I cut you off there, I believe you're going into defensive streamers. Is that correct?
Yeah. So a couple of teams that are interesting here. You got the Giants at Washington, Cardinals at Minnesota, and Saints at Carolina.
Yeah. I'm not going to roll with the Giants. I mean, against Washington, it's an interesting matchup, but
It's tough, right? With the new quarterback.
yeah, but
it's away.
With the Saints shutting down Green Bay and then going to Carolina,
Yeah.
and then the Cardinals with all those sacks, and then going against Minnesota that wasn't the best against the Bengals.
Looks like a turnstile.
Yeah, it's hard to pass them up, and sometimes you got to look past streamers. The Cardinals might just be a good defense to have the rest of the year. It's so might the Saints, and I find it hard to believe you could say that about the Giants. The downside is the Cardinals have to play the NFC West, so they got a lot of terrible matchups coming their way. So I think for this week, I would take the Saints. If I'm looking for maybe a long-term gamble that also works this week, I would go with the Saints. I think. I go with the Cardinals for this week. Saints is a more of a long-term play. What do you think?
Yeah, probably put it, this week, probably, tight between Cardinals and Saints, because Carolina looked good from a McCaffrey standpoint, but I didn't really love what I saw outside of CMC, which CMC can do it by himself. But Minnesota can too. They got a lot of skilled players as well. So both of them, I think, are solid options, but not great. I wouldn't mind taking a chance on the Giants here. They're playing Thursday night, so you have a short week, brand new quarterback. I wouldn't mind, rolling the dice if you have a really bad matchup elsewhere. You just, are streaming defenses. I think you can do worse with Giants on the road against a new quarterback, short week.
Yeah, that is fair, and that is it's going to wrap up our first waiver show of the year. There, Will.
All right. Well, good luck, everyone, in the waivers. This should be coming out here Tuesday morning. We'll be back to talk to you guys on Wednesday or Thursday for a little start sit, right?
Yeah, the episode should be coming out Thursday. What day we recorded, I still don't know, but the episode itself will come out on Thursday. So until then, folks.
Perfect.
Trust your board.